Dislocate your jaw and expand your GI tract for this week's
Initial Thoughts. Part 1. Initial Thoughts. Part 1. Initial Thoughts.
It's Thursday again, Trek friends, and we've got Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 9, Trusted Sources. I've got an underperforming Starbase worth of spoilers if you'd like to rethink your career goals elsewhere. I don't have a lot of strong likes or dislikes this week, though I did enjoy the episode. It was a good episode of Star Trek, but it wasn't necessarily the best episode of Lower Decks. The humor was very muted, and other than the planets visited, most of the callbacks are very matter-of-fact and feel crammed in there. Freeman takes initiative by proposing a Project Swing-By, where the Federation can get better at maintaining the paths they set random species on, and she's ordered to take a Federation News Network correspondent aboard to document the first mission in this new endeavor. It wouldn't be Lower Decks if we didn't go back to a random TNG anti-drug PSA that nobody cared about. Carol's checking in on the Arnarans and the Breckians from Symbiosis. Turns out for once Starfleet did a good thing, and the Arnarans are doing much better for themselves and have no interest in more Federation assistance. So Mama Carol goes to visit Brekka and finds a ghost town with former Felicium silos busted up, and you start to think here's the negative consequences of Picard's actions. Until, out of nowhere, we find out the Breen have taken control of the planet, and Freeman and crew can't get back to the Cerritos and cut Miggly Moo's call with Mama Bird off fast enough. And I do have a like for Dr. Birdman getting the con, and this gag calling home to Mima, much like the opening of the previous episode and the ending of many other episodes of Lower Decks. The Cerritos is at its lowest, surrounded by multiple Breen ships, when out of nowhere, another Starfleet ship comes to save the day, which I'm going to give a dislike to. When you use this in a joke movie and one or two other times in the complete run of the show, that's fine. But the saved at the last second trope doesn't leave the galaxy feeling big enough. Moreover, do I think this new fully automated NA-01 Starfleet ship with weapons and maneuverability to take down multiple Breen ships without a scratch is cool? Yes. Yes, I do. But it feels like we're being introduced to a new class of ship every single episode. Pre-Discovery, I knew the names of virtually every class of ship. I've given up at this point keeping up with classes. The parallel main plot going on sees the lower deckers frustrated as the captain takes away their fun time, to the point of de-replicating pies for a pie-eating contest. And I'm standing with Rutherford against pie abuse. And here's a dislike. This is all in the name of the ship looking good for the FNN reporter, and our heroes can't even get a drink at the bar. Despite Carol being really hard on her daughter and even rotating shifts to keep her away from the reporter, Mariner sneaks an interview that mistakenly lands her in hot water. Freeman and now the entire crew think that Beckett told the reporter negative stuff about the ship, and she's finally getting shipped off to the show that is Starbase 80. Even Jennifer won't show her any compassion. We kind of knew from the preseason trailer that at some point Mariner was going to go and do an Indiana Jones-style adventure. And then we're set up with the Independent Archaeologist Guild earlier in the season. So with one episode left, it was no surprise that she was going to leave Starfleet, at least for now. I am looking forward to seeing Beckett doing something different for an episode or more. I do have another like as Freeman realizes her mistake and tries to contact Starbase 80. And these officers that wear possibly my new least favorite Star Trek outfit in the franchise are dealing with a Pyrithian bat. It's one of the few chuckles this episode got from me, calling back to possibly Enterprise's worst episode, A Night in Sickbay. Though the way this was set up didn't feel quite right as a story, it's neither my favorite nor least favorite episode of the season. Now, Let's take a quick look through the mostly half-hearted random callbacks in this episode. Admiral Buenamigo suggests Carol check on the Onaran government to make sure it's not run by kids or the devil. These are callbacks to the kids in TOS's Miri and the children shall lead, along with Ardra from TNG's Devil's Due. Carol responds that Beta 3 probably started worshipping Landru again from the mind-numbing Return of the Archons. The reporter throws out a bunch of callbacks to previous Lower Decks entries that I won't all mention here, except that Q apparently has a repeating fixation with the Cerritos. And I have my final absolutely morbid like for finding out Shari Yenyem had heart attacks in her multiple hearts because of her experience back in Season 2's I Excretus. Any mention of this one will always get a like. We get a truther believer mentioning that what's going on is just temporal Cold War shenanigans, calling back to Enterprise's long-running arc. Mariner mentions the TNG episode Frame of Mind, where Riker was drugged and forced to live out a mental asylum nightmare to find out Federation secrets. And honestly, the way people treat her after the rumors start flying, it does feel like a situation where everyone's insane except you. I think that about covers it. I still affirm that we haven't seen a bad episode of Lower Decks yet. But going from 14-0 last week, there are definitely some episodes better than others. Let's see if Mike McMahon and team can knock it out of the park in the season finale next week, as it competes with the resumption of Prodigy's Season 1. Until then, I've been your host, Dustin Wing.